Hello, YouTube friends. This is We Quilt Studio coming to you with another Embird Studio Next video tutorial. And today we're just going to cover the grid and how to set it and what the different settings mean. So right now you don't see a grid because I don't have it showing. So I'm just going to go to View, Layout, and then click Grid, and there it is. And you can see if I hit View again, it's checked. So the view right now, if I zoom in, each of these little squares, and I'm just using my plus sign to zoom in, each of these little squares is, you could see this is 100 to 120. I'll zoom in a little bit more. So right here is 110. So this square is 10 millimeters by 10 millimeters. And because I have it set to millimeters. So, and I'll show you what that setting looks like. So we'll go to Options, Settings, and you'll click Preferences. And when you click it, you'll have 4 tabs at the top. You want the 4th tab Workspace, which brings up 4 more tabs, and you'll want the Grid tab. And so now, since I'm in millimeters, when you look at these two choices, they're going to be based on 10 millimeters. That's what I found. So the number 1 here is really, you could think of it as 10 millimeters or 1 centimeter if you want to do it that way. But I've just been, in my mind, thinking millimeters because that's what the grid is in. So anytime you're in millimeters, just remember that the grid is based on 10 millimeters. So this would be your main grid where you see the darker lines, and sometimes it's a little harder to see the dark lines from the lighter lines, and you can change that in your settings as well. The darker lines will show a 10 millimeter square, and the subdivision, now when I'm in mils, I find that using a subdivision of 1/10 works great because mils are, based on, the metric system is based on 10. So 1/10 works good for the subdivision. But the 1/10, what it means is that the subdivisions are 1/10 of your 10 millimeter square. So 1/10 of 10 is 1 millimeter. So your subdivisions will be 1 millimeter. So I made a PDF to kind of show this in a more consistent manner. When I show you the PDF, what you're going to see is that metric is based on 10 millimeters, but if you were in inches, it seems like Embird is basing that on 1 inch. So these numbers mean something completely different when you're in inches. Okay, so I have 2 columns. The one on the left is metric and the one on the right is inches. And this is the one that we just looked at. So it says metric is based on 10 mils, which is what I had mentioned. And you have the 2 choices, your main and then your subdivisions. Your main and your subs. So 1 and 1/10. So when the main is 1, that just means that since it's based on 10 mils times 1 gives you 10 millimeters. So when you're at like 1:1 and anywhere up to 3.1, you're going to see just the 10 millimeter square, you're not going to see these subdivisions. So if I go back, if I hit done, and you can see I'm zoomed in at 1.2. So that's why I'm only seeing 10 mils here, 1 to 110. If I click on this, it'll say 1 to 1. And still I just see a 10 millimeter square. But if I hit my plus sign or any of these zooms and I zoom up to 3.1, I can hold it down, hold down my plus. Oops, I went a little too far. I'll do negative. There we go. So see at 3.0, you're seeing the 10 millimeter square. But if I hit my plus sign one more time, all of a sudden from 90 to 100, yes, I can see my 10 millimeter square. But then in the lighter gray are the subdivisions, and there's 10 of them, and each of these is 1 millimeters. And I could keep zooming in to see those bigger. Whoops, it kind of went, you know, 1, or I can go up here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and so each one of these is 1 mil. So that's when you're using 1 for main and 1/10 for your subdivisions. And then if you want your main to be less than 10 mil, say you want your main to show 5 millimeter squares, well then the setting for that is, and I'll try to show them both at the same time. I'd have to zoom out. Okay, so down here, if you want a 5 millimeter square for your main box, choose 1/2 for your main. And then for your subdivisions, I just left them at 110. So mathematically, again, since metric is based on 10 mils, if you set your main to 1/2, then mathematically it means that 10 mils times 1/2, or you could say 1/2 of 10 is 5 mils. So that you'll see just the 5 mils without the subdivisions. You'll see that up until 6.5, I found. And so, and I don't know if that's because of the hoop I have chosen, so these numbers might be different. I'm not sure yet about that. But, so anyway, so your main is at 5, and then your subdivisions, when you do zoom in to 6.5 and beyond, your subdivisions would be 1/10 of those 5 mils. Well, 1/10 of 5, you just multiply. You know, the 5 is in the numerator, so 5 times 1 is 5/10. Well, 5/10 reduces to 1/2. So each of these little squares in here is 1/2 millimeter. When you're zoomed in at 6.5, you can see these little squares. So you can see the big squares still there, you know, from 0 to 5. And this line is just where my cursor was when I took the screenshot. So from 0 to 5, you can see your big square, but within the big squares, each of these is 1/2. So I guess I should have did a screenshot going to the left. Sorry about that, but we'll just go from 0 to 5 this way. So you have 1, 2, and you could see the little notch there. So you have 1, 2. So a half and a half makes 1. So this would be number 1. And this is a half a mil and a half a mil. 1, another half, 2, another half, 3, another half, 4, half, 5. So there you go. So that's if you want to see half a mils, you'd zoom in. But if you really are fine with just seeing 5 mils, you don't have to zoom in. And I do use this a lot because I like having 5 mil increments, and then I can snap to the grid. So this one or this one I use, I've noticed. So we'll go into options, settings. And so we'd have 1/2 and 1/10. So our main would be 10 mils times 1/2, or 1/2 of 10 mils, which is 5 mils. So our main would be 5 mils. And then our subdivision would be 1/10 of those 5 mils, which means 1/10 times 5 mils is 1/2 mil. So if I click done, so you'll see now a square. Here I'm going from 90 to 100, and now I see a square here is worth 5 mils. 90 to 95. It's right there. And I'm zoomed in at 4.5. But if I went to 6.5, 6.0, and then 6.5, all of a sudden it jumps. And so now everything you see here is a half a mil. So from 95 to 100, yeah, we still have 5 mils in the main block, but I got a half a mil in between. So 2 halves, this would be 96. 2 more halves, 97. 2 more halves, 98, 99, and then 100. And then imperial, or inches or what have you, is kind of different. First of all, the imperial, when you're set to imperial, in other words, down here, these blue dots, if you click on them, and units, if you go into imperial and give it a minute, it'll show inches. Now, there, it shows inches now. Well, for imperial, what I'm finding is it's based on 1 inch, not on 10 mils. So, and your subs are always showing, I've noticed. So, and these are just things that I'm noticing, and I could be wrong, but I think I'm on the right track. So anyways, when your main is set to 1, then since imperials are based on 1 inch, well then 1 of 1, or 1 times 1 is 1. So your main squares are 1 inch, and you could see from 0 to 1, you could see a square here, the main square. And then if your sub is set at 1/4, then 1/4 of 1, 1/4 of 1, or 1/4 times 1 is just 1/4. So the subs are 1/4, and you could see from 0 to 1, there's 4 little squares. So if there's 4 squares between 0 and 1, it's just like a ruler. Each block here is 1/4 of an inch. So that's why 1/4 works good with inches, as opposed to like a 1/10. 1/4 works good, and then so does 1/8, because that's the way inches are divided. So you don't really want to put a 1/10 in here. At the same token, you don't really want to put a 1/4 in here or a 1/8. So let's just look at that. So 1 1/4. So go back. And so we're in inches already, but our grid is showing like, metric. It's set for metric with the 1/10. That's why nothing is lining up. You see everything like the number 4 here. It's not even lined up with the grid. So we'll go to options, settings, and we're doing 1 1/4. So our inches are based on 1 inch. So when you select 1, that means that your main block, the dark one, is going to be 1 inch. And then your subdivisions are going to be 1/4 of that 1 inch. So each of these are going to be 1/4 of an inch. So we'll see that. And you can see I'm zoomed into 6.5, so it's kind of even hard to see our main of 1 inch. We're going from 3/4 to 4, so I don't even see my main. I can see that this is dark and this is light, but I don't see the entire main block because I'm too zoomed in. So let's go out a little. Let's move up. So I can see, oh, there we go. So I can finally see a block there. So from 3 to 4. So we have, 1 inch for our main block. And then you could see the light colored ones are 1/4. So here's 3 1/4 here. Another 1/4. It's 3 1/2. 3 3/4, and 4. And then for the 1/8, so if your main is still 1 and your subs are 1/8, well, the main is still at 1 inch. And then the sub, if you chose 1/8, well, 1/8 of 1 inch is 1/8 of an inch. So your subs will be 1/8 of an inch. So you'll see 8 of them between, 0 and 1. 0 and 1 here. Between 1 and 2, you'll see 8 little squares, and each of those squares will be 1/8 of an inch. So now I'll quickly show you these two at the bottom that are really, really tiny. This is the metric, this is the imperial. On the metric, if you use a main of 1/5, well, 5 goes into 10 very easily, so that's how you know that that's one of the fractions that you should be using with metric. But at any rate, if your main is at 1/5, then 1/5 of 10, or 10 times 1/5, is 2 millimeters. So your main square will be 2 millimeters. And it's interesting, you only see the grid if you're zoomed in at 1.6. So you can't just click this button over here to be 1.1 and think you're going to see the grid, because it doesn't show. Because this is so small. So you have to be zoomed in at 1.6 just to see the main. And I could show you that in a minute. So anyway, so that's 2 mils for your main. You can see 0 to 2. And then if your subs then are 1/10, well, 1/10 of 2, Again, you just move the decimal to the left one place or put it in your calculator. 0.1, 1/10 is 0.1. 0.1 times 2, you'll get 0.2 mils. It's pretty small. And you don't even see that until you're zoomed in at 15.5. So 15.5 times. So here, that's what I'm showing here. So each of these little squares is 0.2 of a mil. That's pretty small. I mean, I don't think you'd ever use that. But, I mean, maybe if you want to see pole comps and whatnot, you might want to zoom in that close. So you see 0.2, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. So from 0 to 1, you have all these little 0.2 squares. And then from 1 to 2, you'll have, 5 more. So that's your 1/5, and I'll show you that. I believe I have it up here. Yeah, I do. So I'm already zoomed in at 15.5, and here's 0 to 1. Okay. Yeah, I have 0.2 squares, but remember my main grid is actually from 0 to 2. So here's my main square. And so within that, there's, 10 squares, but between 0 and 1, there's only 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 0.2, 0.4, 0.6, 0.8, not point, but 1.0 right here, and so on. And if I did 1 to 1, if I click this to go to 1 to 1, the grid is gone. Because that's 2 mils is just too small. Maybe it's my hoop again, I don't know, but I have to click 1.4. Okay, all of a sudden now at 1.6 my grid shows up. But I'm just seeing the main grid. Each of these squares is 2. So there's 102, 104, 106, 108, 110. I have to keep zooming all the way up, so I just hold my plus sign down there. And I got at 15, I'm still just seeing the main square, 96 to 98, 2 mils, and then one more. All of a sudden, I see my little squares that are 0.2 mils each. So there's 10 of them to get, 2 mils. So that's pretty small. So, and then in inches, the other small one would be, if your main is 1/2, okay, so your main little blocks here, let's see, where's 0? Here's 0. So, and here's 1. And so your main block is 1/2 inch. And then, so mathematically, if your main is 1/2, well, 1/2 of 1, which is what this is based on, is 1/2 again. So, and then if your sub is 1/4, well, 1/4 of 1/2 is 1/8 of an inch. And you might get confused at first because, in your main block, you only see 4 little squares. And you would say, well, I thought it was 1/8 of an inch. Well, yeah, it's 1/8 of an inch, meaning, from 0 to 1, you're going to see 8 of this 8 squares. 1/8 plus 1/8 is 1/4 plus 1/8, 3/8. plus 1/8 is 4/8 or a half. So we're only at a 1/2 inch here. So each of these, yes, is 1/8. And then, here's the rest of your 1/8 until you get to 1 inch. So there's 8 of them up to 1 inch, but only 4 of them in your 1/2 inch main block or square. So that's those 2 tiny ones. So like I said, I usually only use these 2 up here in mils or in inches. Either of those 2. For my purposes, I kind of like it to be set at somewhere in the middle here, 1/2 and 1/10. Especially if I want to make, let me just click anywhere. If I wanted to make something like an S shape, I like to make them when I snap to the grid, and I like when the grid is set at 5 mils. So right now it's set at 5. Here's 5, 10, 15, 20, 100 to 120. So I would just click on the outline tool and make sure that snap to grid is on down here. I don't need snap to nodes. I already snapped once, and I'll snap. Let me just zoom in. When you're in edit mode, the plus sign doesn't work for zoom. You can either hold this to zoom, or you can use this and draw a box to where you want to be zoomed. So I like to snap to the grid, and then I like to come over 1 and down 2 and snap. And sometimes it's nice to have this checked. It's not going to work for this node, so let me just hit delete. Okay, so I started here, and if I go over 1 and down 2, and I'm snapping to that grid, it looks square, but really it's not. It'll be round as soon as I go over 1 and down 2. It curved. So it's just quicker for me to make an S. And then I'll go over 1 and down 2 and snap, over 1 and down 2 and snap. And so now I have my S curve, and I can do so much with that. I can make so many things, and I can actually come in here and edit it, and I can turn this now into a square node just by hitting insert. And the same thing here, click and insert, and now I can delete the end node, and then edge, reverse stitches, delete that end node, hit enter, and now I have a completely different shape. And this is a great shape too if you like to make things. So I'll hit edit, and I'll just hit, it's starting here and ending there. I'll just hit edge, mirror, duplicate and mirror horizontally, and now I have this really pretty shape. And I'll just, here's the end node, I'll click, close edges, make sure it's straight. This is grayed out so it's straight. And then there's a pretty shape that I have that I could use for petals and what have you. So that's why I like the grid set at 1/2 and 1/10, because it just serves my purposes. But just know that you can make it a lot smaller as well. So I'll hit Control A and Control 1, and the grid is gone, because I'm so zoomed out and I have it set to, the 5 mils. So I hope this helped you with setting the grid and understanding it a little bit better. And what you're seeing here are 2 mandala designs. This one here is free as part of my new membership program. There'll be 4 videos that you'll get for free every month. And then this design here is a 5th video that I threw in as a bonus since I'm starting in May. So you'll get those 5 videos for free all the way until like June 30th, and it's only $10 a month to join the membership. And if you go on my website, wequiltstudio.com, and you go to the Embird files and tutorials page, you'll see that down here where I have the videos, I'll have the ones for free marked in red. So there's that one and these two and these two. So $10 is a great deal because normally they're, a lot more than that. And if you want to become a member, you just click on this, become a member for $10 a month and get free access to 4 videos each month. This one, like I said, is the bonus video. Click to join. And it takes you to my membership page. This is a Buy Me a Coffee website, and they have a membership option just like Patreon, but this one's easier. It's not as complicated as Patreon. So if you want to join, you would just click join here. You can request which videos you'd like to have free access to, as well as you can request videos to me. So if you want to request a video, you can request it down here, and then you're a member, and then only the members can see my posts for the gold level. So sometimes I'll make posts on here that are for everyone, and then sometimes my posts are only for members. And so the members will see the posts that have the links for these 4 videos, or 5 for this first month. So I thought that would be really fun. And then, they would change every month. Like I'd have 4 different videos for just the $10. So I hope this is something that people really love and are excited about. I'm certainly excited to share everything with you all. So anyways, I hope this was helpful, and I'll see you next time. Bye.